So is this the best year in gaming in at least a decade? Let's take a look. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So there's definitely been a lot of talks online about could this be the best year in gaming ever, and we have the Game Award announcements that came out today, so I thought it'd be interesting to look back at some of the review scores of the games that we've gotten for about the past 10 years. And I'm only going back that far because we really don't have a lot of review scores that go back much further than that. Now, many of you have probably seen collages like this that show, say for example, 1998 and arguing that it was the best year in gaming because you have games like Panzer Dragoon Saga, Ocarina of Time, Metal Gear Solid, Half-Life, Mario Party 3, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. There's just a whole bunch of great games here. But unfortunately, we really don't have a whole lot of review scores back from those days to really look at, so that's the reason why I'm only going back about 10 years, and I'm getting this data from OpenCritic. Now, part of the reason why I went with OpenCritic is Metacritic didn't have a really good sort option here on their review scores. I tried to sort by year, and for some reason, Tears of the Kingdom kept showing up almost every year, so I'm not sure if maybe there's something going on with their database. But I thought OpenCritic gave a pretty good layout here, and there could be some argument of their placement of some of these games, basically in what year they were in, and we'll mention a few of those here. But what I want to do is I'm going to start in 2013 and just work our way through. And we're going to look at games that scored a 90 or higher. I figured 90 is just a good cutoff value to start with. And of course, there could be arguments about games that were 89s that if you kind of looked at different reviewers, they may be in 90s. So this is by no means an argument for the best games that year. It's just sort of a metric for us to kind of rate each year against each other. So let's start in 2013. And in 2013, you had 4 games that had a 90 or higher. And you can see here we have Super Mario 3D World had a 93, Dota 2, which I'm not familiar with that one, had a 91, and then we have a 90 with Rayman Legends and The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. And of the games that year, obviously I love The Link Between Worlds because I'm a huge Zelda fan, so that's probably one of my favorites here. And Super Mario 3D World was a pretty good one, and of course we have the one on the Switch now with Bowser's Fury added to it. Now let's move to 2014, and we have again 4 games here, and this is where you'll have a little bit of an argument of whether a game should be listed here. We have The Last of Us Remastered at 94, Grand Theft Auto 5 at 92, we'll get to that in a minute, Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U with a 92, and Bayonetta 2 with a 91. Now, I know many astute watchers right now will say, well, Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 2013. And yes, it did originally, like on the PS3, but I guess they decided just to rate some of the later editions for the PS4, just for example. So I'm not going to argue one way or another. I'm just going to kind of take their values as they come, because it still gives us an idea of how many games had 90 plus in their review score. Next, moving on to 2015, we have 7 games with 90 plus. We'll start at the top here. We have Journey with a 93, Undertale with a 93, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt with a 93, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain with again a 93, Bloodborne with a 91, Ori and the Blind Forest with a 90, and The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D with a 90. Definitely all great games here. Again, you could argue whether or not Majora's Mask should be in there since that's a remake, but you still get an idea. There's about 7 games with 90 plus on their reviews. And then moving on to 2016, we have 6 games with a 90 plus. We have Uncharted 4 A Thief's End with a 93, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Blood and Wine with a 92, Inside with a 91, Forza Horizon 3 with a 91, you don't see a lot of racing games in there, Overwatch with a 90, and Dark Souls 3 with a 90. And then moving on to 2017, we have the Switch coming out, and we have 7 games total here that have 90 plus in their reviews. We have Super Mario Odyssey at a 97, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at a 96, Persona 5 at a 94, Divinity 2 Original Sin 2 at a 90, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at a 92. I guess you could argue should that be here, because it's again, I guess, kind of a remake. Minecraft at a 90, and then Hollow Knight at a 90. So I guess you know now why so many people are hyped for Silksong. And you can definitely see how when the Switch came out, it had a pretty big impact with some of their games as being some of the top ones that were released that year. And then we move on to 2018, and this is the second best year with 90 plus review scores. We have 11 total here. We have at the top 96 with Red Dead Redemption 2. And then we have a 94 for God of War, originally released on the PS4. And then we have a cluster of 92s here. We have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Forza Horizon 4, Celeste, Shadow of the Colossus, Nier Automata, Become a Gods Edition. And then Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition at a 91, and then a 90 for Monster Hunter World, Tetris Effect, and Mark of the Ninja Remastered. Definitely a lot of great games here, and a lot that have had some staying power, like Red Dead Redemption 2 just recently got another re-release. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has gone on for a long time. Nier Automata just keeps getting new versions released of it. So definitely one of the great years in gaming for the last decade. Next we'll look at 2019, and we have 7 games here. We have 3 92s with Resident Evil 2, Dragon Quest XI-S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, Disco Elysium, and then in the 91 we have another version of Nier Automata. We have the Game of the Yokar Edition, I'm probably mispronouncing that. And then the last 3 here at a 90 we have Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and then Monster Hunter World Iceborne. And now looking at 2020, we have basically the third best year in the list here. We'll start at the top with 2 94s. We have Persona 5 Royal and Hades. And then a couple of 93s, we have Half-Life Alyx and The Last of Us Part 2. And then a couple of 92s, we have Demon's Souls and Microsoft Flight Simulator. And then ending the list here in the 90s, we have Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Dreams, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Crusader Kings 3. So definitely some great games here. I've played probably about half of them here. And Hades is definitely one of my personal favorites in this list here, as well as Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And now we get into 2021, which was definitely affected by the pandemic and a lot of games being delayed, because we only have 2 games here in the 90s. At a 93, we have Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, and at 92, Forza Horizon 5. So definitely a slim year there, and as we all know, a lot of games got delayed that year. Now moving into 2022, we start to see some big games get released again. At a 95, we have Elden Ring at the top. And then we have 3 at a 93 here. We have Dead Cells, The Queen and the Sea, God of War Ragnarok, and Portal Companion Collection. And then at a 92 we have Turbo Overkill, and then rounding up the top list here in the 90s we have Norco, Dwarf Fortress, The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, and Chained Echoes. And no doubt some great games here, especially with Elden Ring, probably one of the biggest titles to be released in a generation. And now we finally get to this year, and when you look at this list, you may be a bit overwhelmed at how many are here. In 2023, we have 16 games with a 90 plus review. And this of course dwarfs 2018, which was the second best year at 11. And let's just go down the list starting at the top. At a 96 we have Baldur's Gate 3, along with Tears of the Kingdom. And I think most people are arguing those are pretty much the finalist for Game of the Year. It's just going to be a matter of who's voting and how they end up lining up. And then at a 94 we have Metroid Prime Remastered, definitely one of my favorite this year. And next we have 5 games with a 92. We have Videoverse, Resident Evil 4, Tents and Trees, and then finally Street Fighter 6, which I think is the only fighting game we've had in this past decade make a 90 plus in its review score. And then next we have 4 91s. We have Super Mario Bros. Wonder, 8-Bit Adventures 2, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and Turbo Overkill. And then we'll round up the top here with the 90s. We have Slay the Princess, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Future Redeemed, Jack Janine, Let's Revolution, and Dave the Diver. Now, it would be amiss if I didn't mention that Alan Wake 2 just missed this list with an 89, but there are still reviews that are rolling in, so there's always a possibility it could bump up to that 90 slot. And if that was to happen, then we would see 17 games with a 90 plus review score on them. And just like Alan Wake, some of these games could move around a bit as there could be some review scores coming in and things that came out late. Maybe Mario Brothers Wonder might move a little bit since it came out October 20th, but it's high up enough. I don't think it's going to drop out of the 90s. And I think it's worth noting at the time of doing this video, we still have Super Mario RPG to come out. I definitely could see that slipping into the 90s, especially when we have Metroid Prime Remastered on there. So we've got another great remastered in Super Mario RPG that we know is a great game, so it still could make this 90s list. And it is worth mentioning we do have Turok 3 Shadow of Oblivion and Avatar Frontiers to come out. Now, I really haven't kept up a lot with those games, but there's always a possibility they can make it into this 90 plus review score rating, but they won't make it in time for the Game Awards along with Super Mario RPG. Now, just looking at these review scores from OpenCritic, you can see that 2023 has the largest number of 90 plus reviewed games. And there are 134 games that are in the 80s. Now, I didn't compare that to other years, but that's still a massive number of decent games. So to me, this looks like the best year in gaming, at least in the past decade. However, there could be another possibility I just want to throw out there and see what you think. Could it be that review scores are getting a little more lenient? That's always a possibility, although I want to at least compare. If you look at Tears of the Kingdom versus Breath of the Wild, they both have a 96. And I would say Tears of the Kingdom is by far a better game than Breath of the Wild, but considering how similar they are, it probably got kind of deducted back for not just being as innovative as Breath of the Wild was. So let me know what you think in the comments. Is this the best year in gaming in a decade, or are the reviewers being a little nicer? And when looking back before the past decade, what do you think was the best year in gaming? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And if you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so. It really does help the channel out quite a bit. I want to thank you for watching and be good.